what you cannot measure, you cannot manage. So therefore, to develop KPIs is an important point. And of course, I'm happy that we are here because I read in a book that not far from here, there's a temple called the Manakamana Temple, where if you go there and if you have a sincere reason to go there, your wish will be granted, if you're a Hindu or not. So this the goddess Bhagavati is not distinguishing between people from different creeds. And I think when I was reading about this, I thought about tourism industry. We have been promising satisfaction to everybody, but we have not kept our word in many cases. And something which was not mentioned much in the morning was the employees as one of the stakeholders. I think all around the world now we have the problem that the people we could not employ for 3 years during the pandemic, they don't come back because they found out you can have a job for the same money, Monday, Friday, 9 to 5, sitting down, nobody shouting at you, so they don't come back. So that is something where we have to really keep our promise, and obviously being close to the Manakamana temple, this is the right place to talk about that. So this graph you probably have seen before, just briefly to look at the development of China outbound tourism from 10 million in 2000, year 2000, and it went to 170 million in 2019, only then to crash. Our forecast for 2023 is that we will reach about 100 million trips again, and half of them Greater China, Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan, half of them going further. And looking briefly, where did the people travel to in the decade before the pandemic? And of course, we can see that Southeast Asia, the neighboring countries, have been in regions like Hong Kong and Macau, who are obviously not a country, have been favored for obvious reasons, cheaper, faster to go there. So therefore, for the neighboring countries, Nepal being one of them, this is has been for many by far the biggest source market. So then pandemic happened, and what happened during the pandemic was that we still had about 8 million or so people per year traveling, but actually they were traveling to one place only, almost all of them, and you can see this was Macau. So Macau was the only destination where you could travel as a mainland Chinese person into without having to go to quarantine on arrival, and you could go back to mainland China without having to go to quarantine on return, because for a long time they didn't have a single case of COVID. So if you take out the numbers going to Macau, we can see that from January or end of January, that's why we have in the first quarter still 40 million, this was before, but from end of January 2020 to the 8th of January 2023, all the people who were traveling were maybe doctors or having some special reason, big business people, otherwise there was no traffic. So now, fortunately, we are in a new situation, and excuse me for this maybe a bit cheeky headline. So China went from a shortage of coffins, unfortunately, to a shortage of wedding dresses. So in the spring there were no wedding dresses to be bought in China because people have been getting married in the last 3 years, but they didn't have an opportunity to have the big wedding party. So now they needed the wedding dresses, and of course now, good news for the Maldives, for instance, there is a wave of honeymoon trips. So all the couples who were married in the last 3 years now have to go on their honeymoon trip. The recovery has been slower than many people were expecting, and I've been called by many journalists asking, where are the Chinese? But of course there were some hurdles. First, the Chinese needed a new passport, many of them. We still have a big problem with visa. So if a Chinese citizen wants to go to, for instance, to my home country, Germany, it takes 3 months waiting time, and for many countries. So the Chinese tourists are standing outside on the door, knocking on the door, saying, please let me in, I want to spend my money in your country. but we don't open the door yet. But this will probably go away in a few months. Also, we heard from OIG that the air transport capacity is coming back only slowly. And for instance, for Germany, it's only since the 1st of May that Germany issued tourist visa for Chinese people. So, what has been in numbers the developments and in percentages? Have we ever seen a development of a market which increased by 38,000%? This is mind-boggling. So this, if you look at these numbers, it's wonderful. So Hong Kong had in the first quarter 2023 3.3 million arrivals, and the year before they had 10,000. So that's why they have these percentages. But then if you look to the right side, in the first quarter of 2019, they didn't have 3.3 million, they had 14 million. 14.6 million. So therefore, if you compare this to 2019, we are still way behind, even so in percentages these numbers are quite dramatic. But so for instance, for Japan, we had 143,000 when 1 year in 2019 we had 2.16 million. Oops, what happened now? Okay. So the world has changed, tourism has to change, and China's outbound tourism has to change. And there are a couple of reasons for that. One is, of course, that the global and national economic situation is changed and not for the better. So we heard in the morning from The Economist, very good, concise analysis of the situation as it is now. The second thing, which is indeed a topic for another full session, is climate catastrophe. I don't think it's climate change. Triggers unavoidable changes. So in Europe, you don't have snow anymore for the ski resorts. A few weeks ago, I did a China outbound tourism workshop in Palermo in Sicily. Last year, they had 50 degrees. So you don't go to the beach anymore if there's 50 degrees. So besides this, also of course in China specifically, we heard a lot of the changing of demands towards more nature, more authentic, more immersive tourism, and this is also all true for China. So the Chinese discovered camping and glamping, and they say they don't want to just take a photo when they go somewhere, but they want to talk to the people and immerse themselves. And also, you might remember that in 2019, not everything was good. So we had this over-tourism debate. There was this debate, you have to be ashamed using an aircraft for holidays. And so we are still in the danger of getting a bad image, stopping to be the good guys. So quickly looking at the 4 points. So China's GDP growth is picking up again, even so I do not think we will have 5% growth in reality, maybe in government numbers, into 2023, but still, of course, it's picking up. But the times of 8%, 10% growth are over forever. On the other hand, so I've just been 2 weeks in China, and the last 40 years I've been traveling there many times. There was always a basic optimism. People say, hey, I can spend all my money now because next year there will be more money. No need to save. No need to look for value for money. Never mind. So now the mood has really changed. People are more careful, more anxious, not knowing what will be the future, especially for the young people. If you look at this number, 1 out of 5 young people leaving university don't find a job. And many of these guys, they had their family investing in their tuition fees, and the families now want a return on investment. So there is a clear change. The climate catastrophe is happening everywhere, and in China last year we had the biggest heat wave ever. There were 900 million people suffering from 2 months of 40 degrees Celsius. In Chongqing there was one night where the minimum temperature was 36 degrees. And also this year, just a few weeks ago, Beijing already had 36 degrees in May, which is not very normal, and you can see on this picture on the right hand side last year, the Yangtze River almost fell dry, and therefore for the Chinese, it's like for everybody else, the climate change has arrived. It's not something in the future, not something in the news, but this is what you are experiencing every day. And if you saw the news a few days ago, this famous 1.5 degrees red line, which we were supposed never to cross, we will cross in 4 years, in 2027. Sorry, that's a mistake. 2027. So, during the pandemic, the China outbound travelers had a lot of experiences traveling in their own country, and so therefore what they are looking for has changed. Clearly, this old idea, Chinese tourists are 45 people in a coach bus behind a tour guide, jumping out of the bus, taking a photo, jumping back in, eating bad Chinese food wherever they go. This is almost over, and you have more people interested in exclusive travel, in luxury, a lot more people in adventure. So again, Nepal, of course, a wonderful place for that. Paragliding and so on. Glamping. So we have been told about some glamping places here, and generally getting closer to the people in the destination. Language is not a problem anymore. You now have these little apps. You can speak into Chinese into your phone, and then it speaks whatever language you want. So and we see, of course, even more than before the pandemic, segmentation. So the famous generation Z, and now even the generation Alpha, the people, the kids pushing their parents where to go, are coming, and so therefore clearly the Chinese market doesn't exist anymore. You have to say, okay, am I going for sophisticated people from the big cities, or am I going for first-time visitors, and so on. So, and I had the pleasure to organize a conference last week in Guangzhou at the Guangzhou International Travel Fair, and there was one of the leaders of Tunar, which is one of the big OTAs, and he was saying that China outbound tourism is moving in 3 steps. So the first step was these big groups rushing around. The second step was smaller groups traveling after there is research for many hours where to go to, what is the best thing to do. And now we are starting the third phase, and this is a phase where people actually do not decide on destinations anymore. So you're not saying, okay, I go to Australia or I go to Nepal, and then what can I do here? But rather to say, my hobby, my special interest is bird photography, golfing, food, whatever. And every year I go to another place. So where is a good place for my special interest? So that you're not starting your marketing from saying, come to Nepal, but you're saying, hey, glamping, the craziest place for glamping in the world is this resort up in the mountains. That's where you have to go if you are into glamping. So, and he said, so for the Chinese outbound tourism, you have the development from 1,000 tourists going to one place to 1,000 tourists going to 1,000 places. Which means that for all the smaller destinations, everybody who has not an Eiffel Tower, this is a chance, this is an opportunity, if you offer the right products. And also, this is a colleague from UK saying that the tour operators she's working with, they asked her, well, our customers want to do something else in the usual UK tour. So it's the customers pushing the tour operators, pushing their partners. So as we said, we had over-tourism debate, we had this flight shame debate, so we are in danger of being of stopping being seen as a good guys, bringing happiness and maybe even peace towards being the guys who are polluting. So therefore, I jump about this a bit. Therefore, what we did during the pandemic, that we were looking at all this discussion, and I found that it was all about negative things, what not to do, what to be ashamed of, what to stop doing. And as we all know, if you tell your kid, don't do that, will your kid stopping from this? If you put a sign, don't walk on the lawn, Will people stop doing it? No, they will not. So you have to show people what is a positive thing, and it has to be something for everybody. So you in Mallorca in Spain, the people start to throw horse shit at the tourists because Airbnb has taken over all the apartments. So if you get married in Spain, in Mallorca, and you're not very rich, you have to stay with your parents because there are no apartments on the market. They have all been taken over by the short-term rentals. So and we mentioned the experience with the employees not coming back. So what we developed is something we call meaningful tourism, where we say there are 6 main stakeholders in tourism: the travelers, the host communities, the staff, the companies themselves, the different level of governments, and the environment, aka future generations. And tourism is only working if you have KPIs, if you can measure what is the effect for all the 6 stakeholders of tourism. So what are the benefits, what levels of satisfaction can you reach for all 6 stakeholders? And this is not about balancing, what you often hear in discussions. It's about aligning interests. It is what the argument was. Of course, you have to use an aircraft to fly to the Maldives, but this is bringing jobs to the Maldives. What else should the people do there? So aligning interests and bringing tourists when they come with a special interest, they will be interested to meet local people with the same special interest. So the tourists can become a source of knowledge and joy for the local people. So, and this is based on, I don't have time to go into this, on the idea which is positive sustainability, which goes back to positive psychology, which is something I would think is a good idea for everybody in tourism to look at. In the last 20 years, positive psychology has done a big development, and we can all learn a lot from that. So you have to develop KPIs. We have developed tools helping destinations, helping companies with that. So happy to share this knowledge with anybody interested, so that we have then a sustainable development where everybody is happy about it. This is actually not rocket science. I mean, in your family, it's very normal. So daddy has to be happy, mama has to be happy, the kids have to be happy, the mother-in-law has to be happy. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And that's the same thing. And we have, for a long time, we have been concentrating on the customer's king. Or now at the new discussions, we have been saying it's all about the environment. Stop tourism totally. Or we have been saying it's all about the host communities. So the people in Amsterdam can decide who can enter Amsterdam. It's not theirs; it belongs to the world. So therefore, so that is the point that if you look at 1 or 2 or 3 of the stakeholders, it doesn't work. You have to look at all the stakeholders, and you have to have KPIs to measure their success and development. So what we did is we published just a few weeks ago the Meaningful Tourism Index 2023, just finished, where we measured using 72 indicators we have developed for the 6 stakeholders for the 88 biggest tourist destinations in the world. Where are they standing with regard to meaningful tourism? And the good news is this publication is free of charge. So you can see www.meaningful-tourism.com. You can download it and read it. So this is a 72 pages publication. Of course, for the detailed analysis for each country, we are offering this to people from each country, of course. So if you're interested in more details, contact us. But so this is, as I said, free of charge. Well, the result has been, in a nutshell, that 3 out of the 88 destinations reached more than 50% of the possible points. So there is still a long way to go. And unfortunately, Nepal is not among the top 88 in terms of turnover, but I can share with you that China, for instance, ranked 50, so in the middle field, and India ranked 79 out of 88. So there's a lot to do, as I think all the Indian colleagues will know better than me. So therefore, coming back to China outbound tourism, so we need to change, and this is not a choice, because actually, if nothing else, climate change will make us change our products and the way we are living. And so we have to avoid to being placed in the same with smoking cigarettes as something bad to do, which there is a danger in that. And so meaningful tourism is, I think, a way where you can use these tools to develop a better tourism future for everybody involved. And of course, China soon will be again representing 10% or maybe 12% of all global tourism. So any global tourism development towards sustainability has to include the Chinese travelers, otherwise you're leaving behind a big chunk of the market. And what has been happening in the mentioned in the morning to finish, this trend toward discovery, so going to new destinations, is also something which is very strong in China, and also the interest in sustainable tourism. We had this one graph where you see more than 90% of the young people all over the world saying we want to have more sustainable tourism, we're interested in that. In China you have the same numbers, so that also you can attract Chinese outbound tourists with the argument that you are having a sustainability program in your hotel, in your region, whatever. So there is a demand in China existing for this, and there is a supply as well. So I think at the moment the key problem, what is missing is a bridge, and what is missing is indeed clear government strategies towards meaningful tourism. So just, if you allow me to mention, so we published a book about this, how to deal with the new wave of Chinese tourists, which is available online. And I'm very happy to tell you that next week we will start a new publication called China Outbound Tourism Market Intelligence, which will be published in many different languages simultaneously, thanks to AI, and which also will have an ASEAN edition probably from July or August. So, and I hope that will be a constant weekly source of information for that. With that, thank you very much, and I don't think we have time for Q&A, do we? No time for Q&A, but I will be here. Please, I'm happy to answer all your questions. Thank you very much.